Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And in today's video, I have another great article for you guys from PC Magazine's Sasha Segan. I am actually featured in this article, so make sure you guys check it out. So the article's title states 3 reasons T-Mobile isn't yet dominating 5G. So there's some very good information for you guys in this article. There's lots of quotes from people's Twitters that have commented on Sasha Segan's post, and it's really, really good information. So a couple of things that I wanted to say. So again, I was featured on the article, and so the 5G that integration that T-Mobile is going through right now, I guess you could say it's growing pains. So T-Mobile right now is going through growing pains as they become the bigger company that they set out to be with adding all of the Sprint assets. Now, what is it about the Sprint assets that is potentially keeping T-Mobile from striving much further, much faster? And it's because it's several reasons, and you will see a lot of the reasons in this article. So a lot of the 2.5 spectrum in some areas is not contiguous. So that's another reason why we haven't really seen T-Mobile be able to open up the floodgates, because some of the spectrum is still being used for Sprint's LTE. So that's one of the reasons that T-Mobile hasn't been able to go beyond the 40 or the 60 megahertz, depending on the market. And in some markets, again, they don't own necessarily that large of spectrum on the 2.5. In some markets, like El Paso, I think El Paso taps out at around 120, 110 roughly, and it's not contiguous, so it's in bits and pieces. And the same goes for other cities as well. So it's the 2.5 is really not that cut clear and dry as some make it out to be. There are some issues that T-Mobile is going to have to overcome while using the spectrum, and one of them is some of the spectrum is still tied in with Sprint's LTE network. So the comment that I made on the post that I'm featured on in here is that a part of the reason why T-Mobile really doesn't want to use the spectrum for LTE is because they want to go through a very fast transition period. They want to transition the customer off of the LTE network onto 5G NR, and they want to do so proactively, not only on the network side, but also on the device side. So they want to move people off of older devices onto new 5G devices, and they want to do so proactively. Now, does that necessarily mean they want to leave a worser experience on LTE? Not really. You still want to have, you want to give your consumer base a solid experience on LTE still, because if not, you could potentially risk losing that customer altogether. So if you can't really get them enticed on transitioning over to a 5G device, you could potentially just lose that customer altogether to another carrier that's getting more and more aggressive, as we've seen with Verizon, and AT&T is getting really aggressive on the phone deals. So people that are out in the market and they're shopping, they're likely to find a really good deal with another carrier if T-Mobile doesn't fit their needs anymore. So that's one of the reasons why I think they really don't want to use any of that spectrum for LTE. But now that we are seeing that there are limitations on the radio side, the equipment side, of 100 megahertz 100 megahertz of that spectrum, now it makes sense why they would use some of that for LTE still, until the radios are up to speed on pushing out more of the 120, 140, 160 megahertz of that spectrum. But until then, put the 100 megahertz on the NR side and leave the other 20, 40, 60 on LTE. Why not? If the radio can't make use of the additional spectrum, instead of just letting it sit around, let's move it to LTE and give the people that are remaining on LTE a better experience as well. Now, some people have pointed it out to me, which I think that would be a bad business practice. But if you included some of that band 41 on LTE, you could potentially make it such a good experience now that the consumer really would say, why do I need a 5G device when my LTE can perform just as good? I mean, yeah, you know, those people that did email me that, they had a good point, but I just think it's bad business practice if you think that way. If you're, okay, I'm going to suffocate the LTE network to where it's just, you know, not usable anymore, so everyone moves to 5G. I just don't think you can think like that, or I don't think it'll work like that. I think those customers are more likely to leave T-Mobile before they get into another device, you know, financing with T-Mobile. I think that's bad business practice. I don't think it should work like that. I think they just need to move that spectrum to LTE until the 5G NR radios can handle more spectrum, and then just to start slowly transitioning that customer over to 5G. And then at whatever point down the line, if you're ready to go all 5G, then at that point you could be like, look, if you have an LTE device, you need to just get into a newer device. But I think in the future, like in a year, 2, 3 years from now, I think most of the mainstream devices will automatically transition you into 5G because it'll have it on board. So I think at that point, LTE will be a fallback network, kind of like we've seen with HSPA and 3G. And then at that point, I think you can slowly start transitioning and cutting off spectrum from LTE and refarming it for 5G at that point. But I think that doesn't happen overnight. I think that takes time, and it will take a transitional period to make that happen. So let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Like I said, I really want you guys to check this out. There's lots and lots of good info here. A lot of good info from everybody. Like I said, I was featured on there as well. So make sure you guys check it out, read it. Really good info. And I will leave it in the description down below. So if you have been on the channel, make sure, of course, make sure you still hit the notification bell if you haven't done so. But you can go ahead and end this video now. But if you are new to the channel and you look forward to updates like these, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you are notified when I do upload the content. Keep in mind, recently, I'm sure some of you have seen it, YouTube is not notifying people of videos. If there's not a certain traction that the video's getting or a certain amount of views, it seems they're not pushing out the notifications to the subscriber base. So make sure you follow my Twitter. I do post the videos on the Twitter, and you can push notifications on Twitter. And people have told me the push notifications on Twitter works way better, much quicker than the YouTube ones. So just make sure to follow the Twitter. It will be in the description down below. And this is Tyrone with Tech Life, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.